long time since January, welcome back, and we start today with the May 2019 timetable change, the biggest timetable change since, well, May 2018. This timetable is mainly focused on taking advantage of new trains and infrastructure, most of which was supposed to be ready for May 2018, but wasn't, which was partially why 2018 was such a massive mess. So this timetable has helped to clean it up somewhat. On Northern, the new timetable has seen the debut of full electric services on the Bolton-Chorley-Preston line, only 2.5 years after they were originally due to start. Now in May 2018, Northern introduced Manchester Airport to Blackpool via Wigan and Preston electric services, and Manchester Airport to Preston via Bolton diesel services. In May 2019, these services have kind of swapped heads to what they were originally supposed to be, an all-electric service from Manchester Airport to Blackpool via Bolton and Preston, and a diesel service from Manchester Airport to Barrow-in-Furness and Windermere via Wigan and Preston. The latter was supposed to be operated by Class 195s, which were supposed to be ready for the timetable change. They weren't, more on that later. So far they've been operated by a mix of 158s, and some services terminating at Preston have been operated by 319s. Meanwhile, the separate hourly service that had been running between Blackpool North and Manchester Piccadilly via Bolton has now been extended through to Hazel Grove, and is now electric. Another service that has been introduced has been the long-awaited direct service from Chester to Leeds via Manchester Victoria, which were also supposed to be operated by Class 195s. All of the services I just mentioned are part of the Northern Connect network, which is gradually coming together, although the official sub-brand has yet to be launched. On the other hand, the planned Manchester Airport to Bradford service via the Ordsall Cord has been delayed indefinitely. I wonder why. TransPennine Express hasn't seen any major changes. The Manchester Airport to Scotland service is now called at Oxford Road again. The big new change that was supposed to happen was the introduction of direct services from Liverpool to Glasgow, but this has now been deferred until December. Transport for Wales have introduced a new hourly service from Liverpool to Chester via the newly refurbished Halton Cord, with some services continuing on to Wrexham. Services onwards to Llandudno and Cardiff from Liverpool are set to begin in 2022. The operator that has seen the biggest changes in this new timetable is West Midlands Railway, which is split into West Midlands Trains and London North Western. On London North Western, we've seen major changes to the longer services, including the combination of many previously separate services into new super long services. For example, one of the hourly London to Birmingham services has been combined with the Birmingham-Liverpool service to create a new direct London to Liverpool service via Birmingham. Meanwhile, the London to Crewe service via the Trent Valley, which previously ran via Stoke-on-Trent, now runs directly to Crewe from Stafford. Meanwhile, another London-Birmingham service has been extended through to Crewe via Stoke-on-Trent. New electric services have launched on the Chase line from Birmingham to Rugeley, including direct trains from London to Rugeley via Birmingham and Walsall. On West Midlands trains, we've seen frequency improvements between Birmingham and Shrewsbury, and new direct services from Nuneaton to Leamington Spa via Coventry, using ex-London Overground 172s. Elsewhere, Thameslink core frequencies have increased to 20 trains per hour. On East Midlands trains, we've seen some minor retimings, cleaning up some of the messier parts of the May 2018 timetable, although Bedford is yet to receive its peak time callings back. Greater Anglia has finally achieved its long-term ambition to reach Norwich from London Liverpool Street in 90 minutes, known as Norwich in 90. The timetable change has also seen the disconnecting of the northern end of the Hertford Loop, with buses replacing trains between Stevenage and Watton-on-Stone, whilst a new platform is being built at Stevenage. This is an annoying situation, but hopefully it won't take them too long to build the platform, so this should only be temporary. And finally, north of the border, there are now electric services running via the Shotts line, providing a fourth electric route between Edinburgh and Glasgow. One of the stations along the route, Bryche, which had previously received only a parliamentary service, now receives hourly services, so perhaps there is some hope for Pilning after all. Now, there was much speculation over whether or not there would be a repeat of last year's timetable chaos, with all eyes particularly on West Midlands, where most of the changes were taking place, but from what I've seen, this one seems to have gone fairly smoothly. It does seem that some of the lessons of May 2018, some of them, have been learnt, and it is encouraging to see that the rail industry can actually push through major changes without making a massive mess of it. Now, in the previous episode at the beginning of this year, I said that 2019 would be the year of new trains, with loads of new train fleets set to enter service. So in one sentence, I will sum up how this is all going so far. Basically, they're all late, all of them. Let's start with Northern, which is awaiting the introduction of Class 195 and 331 Civity units. They are the diesel and electric variants of the same train, respectively. They were both set to enter service in 2018, but as of the time of recording, none of them are in service. However, the latest news is that they are set to enter service on Monday the 1st of July, which is tomorrow. Elsewhere on Northern, the timetable change saw the end of the leasing of Trans-Pennine Express Class 185s, and also the end of the leasing of Northern Class 170s to Trans-Pennine Express. Class 170s had been drafted in to operate the Trans-Pennine Express shuttle between Huddersfield and Leeds between December 2018 and May 2019. We also saw the end of loco-hauled workings on the Cumbrian coastline. These loco-hauled services and the loaning of 185s from Trans-Pennine Express was basically a stopgap measure to fill a hole left by the transferring of some of Trans-Pennine Express's Class 170s to Chiltern quite a few years ago. So it's good to see that we've finally managed to move on from this rather messy situation. Northern is also waiting for the Class 769 Flex, the modified Class 319 with a diesel engine, which was supposed to enter service by now, although right now nobody actually knows when it's going to enter service. Before we move on from Northern, I'd just like to address the confusion that is going on with the Class 323s. Now, when the Northern franchise began in 2016, all the 323s were set to be withdrawn from service in December 2018. Assuming obviously that the new trains, the Class 331s, would have entered service by then. Obviously that hasn't happened. But now it doesn't seem entirely clear whether or not Northern will be keeping its 323s. On the one hand, they're perfectly good trains in reasonably good condition with good acceleration and gradient management, making them well suited for the hilly Hadfield route, much better than the Class 319s. And Northern could also do with as much electric capacity as possible on the busy commuting routes out of Manchester, where Class 323s currently operate, alongside the Class 319s which are inherited from the Thameslink. On the other hand, because Northern weren't planning to keep their 323s, none of them have been refurbished or modified, meaning that they will not be compliant with the new disability regulations coming into force at the end of this year. To add to the confusion, West Midlands Trains is also set to get rid of its 323s, and there is some speculation that Northern is actually set to take on these units, meaning that there'll be even more 323s, rather than getting rid of them altogether. But nobody seems to actually have an answer. As for Trans-Pennine Express, none of the new trains have yet entered service, even though the Mark V sets were supposed to enter service last year. And there doesn't seem to be any actual public timescale for any of the new fleets entering service. The Azuma Class 800s have finally entered service on Virgin Trains East Coast, London North Eastern Railway, on the 15th of May. Despite being publicly unveiled over 3 years ago, the trains have only just entered service on the London to Leeds services. They are set to start running on to Newcastle and beyond into Scotland later this summer. None of the electric-only Class 801s have yet entered service. This is in contrast to Great Western Railway, where every single Class 800 is now in service, and as a result the company is now able to withdraw most of its HSTs. The very last HST mainline service departed from Paddington on the 18th of May in a very emotional ceremony, although shortened HST Castle sets will stick around in the west of the country for many years to come. After a large number of software issues, Adventure Class 710s have finally entered service on the Gospel Oak to Barking line. They're also set to operate on overground services out of Euston and Liverpool Street in the nearest future. Heavily refurbished Class 442 plastic pigs have returned to service on South Western Railway, running services from London Waterloo to Portsmouth. Class 717 Desiro City services have entered service on Great Northern services into Moorgate. Elsewhere, the very first Viva Rail Class 230D train has entered service with London North Western on the Marston Vale line from Bletchley to Bedford. Units are also set to enter service with Transport for Wales later this year. And finally, Caledonian Sleeper introduced its Mark V carriages on the Lowland Sleeper on the 28th of April. Rather unsurprisingly, the first run was marred by technical teething problems. I just hope they get over these problems quickly, because they do look like otherwise excellent and luxurious trains. Sticking with rolling stock just a little bit longer, Transport for London have confirmed that they have ordered 43 new trains from CAF to run on the Docklands Light Railway. These will start to enter service in 2023, replacing the B90, B92 and B2K stock, and running alongside the currently newest B07 stock. Then let's talk about the new East Midlands franchise, which was a competition between Stagecoach, Arriva and Abellio. The DfT have awarded the contract to Abellio, the other two are suing, but I'll get to that later. The new franchise is set to begin on the 18th of August, which is also the day that the rest of my family are set to move to Oman. Coincidence? Yeah, probably. As part of the new franchise, the Liverpool to Norwich service is being split, with the Liverpool to Nottingham section being transferred to either Northern or Transpennine Express. The remaining Norwich to Nottingham portion is set to be extended through to Matlock, and at the same time the Crewe to Derby service will be extended through to Newark via Nottingham. The company is also set to operate a new hourly service from Peterborough to Doncaster via Lincoln. The new franchise will see the completion of electrification of the Midland Main Line as far as Kettering and Corby, with new electric services to Corby set to begin in December 2020. One slight problem, however, is that Abellio will not have enough time to order new electric trains in time for that, so they'll probably have to use some second-hand electric trains in the short term to run that service. Class 360s displaced from Greater Anglia have been touted as a possible stopgap here. However, one small problem is that they don't seem to have anywhere obvious to maintain them, because apparently electric train maintenance wasn't built into the plan to electrify the Midland Main Line or something. The problems for the new East Midlands franchise don't end there, because their 8-strong fleet of HST sets will become non-compliant by the end of this year, along with the Class 153s. And there doesn't really seem to be any obvious short-term replacement. I can sense an impending shitstorm there. In the long run, the company will order new electric high-speed trains to run services to Corby, and new bi-mode trains to serve Nottingham and Sheffield. Sticking with the East Midlands, there has been a very exciting development. The DfT have confirmed that electrification will eventually be extended beyond Kettering, all the way to Market Harborough. Big whoop. I mean, at this rate, we will eventually reach Nottingham, possibly by the end of this century. Market Harborough, uncoincidentally, has recently undergone a major remodelling, with the entire station basically being moved to straighten the track. There are 2 other new franchises coming up, the new West Coast Partnership, which is due to begin in March 2020, and the new Southeastern franchise, which was supposed to begin around now but has been delayed due to various factors, including Brexit-related uncertainty, and is now set to begin somewhere between November this year and April next year. But I'll talk more about those in the next episode. On the 3rd of June, Meridian Water Station opened its doors to the public, replacing the nearby Angel Road, which was the least used station in London. The new station is part of the wider Lee Valley Regeneration Project. A new 3rd track has been added along the line to allow for a new shuttle service from Meridian Water to Stratford, which is set to begin on the 9th of September. Thankfully, sanity has prevailed and provision has been made to add a 4th track, which may be used by Crossrail too. Sadly, where sanity has not prevailed is that the footbridge left over by the closure of Angel Road was not in fact donated to Pilning. It has been confirmed that new open access services from London to Blackpool will be operated under the existing company structure of Grand Central. Set to begin at some point in 2020, the new service will use Class 91 and Mark IV sets displaced from the East Coast to run 5 trains in each direction between London Euston and Blackpool North every day. Meanwhile, there have been a number of other proposals for open access operators in recent months. Virgin Stagecoach would like to operate a new hourly service from London to Liverpool. This may just become Virgin and Stagecoach's last vestige of UK rail operation. At the same time, a new company called Grand Union has proposed a new service from London Paddington to Cardiff Central, with faster journey times than the equivalent Great Western service and a greater emphasis on passenger comfort. Finally, Transport for Wales have proposed a new service from Swansea to Bristol, which they hope to start operating in the early 2020s. Oh, and one final service, the new Wigan to Pyongyang Express. Okay, this one is not an open access operator, it's a rail tour, which would actually consist of various separate rail legs. God, imagine that, a rail tour serving one of the most terrifying and isolated places on the planet. And once you leave Wigan, you get to take a train to North Korea. Of course, if you can't afford the fare, you can very easily simulate the experience of a long and perilous journey to a terrifying military compound by hopping on your local Northern service to Manchester Piccadilly platforms 13 and 14. A brief update on Crossrail, the railway that has rapidly gone from a roaring success story to a massive shit show. The latest estimates for its opening are somewhere between October 2020 and March 2021. The delay could have some serious implications for TfL's finances and for the future of other major planned projects, including Crossrail 2 and High Speed 2. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. The EU have blocked the proposed merger of the rail manufacturing arms of Alstom and Siemens. Thank God for that. Deutsche Bahn have announced that it will stop selling its spar price through tickets from London to Germany in November. This is basically because Eurostar have changed the rules and stopped them from doing so. You know, it's really encouraging to see that whilst demand for more cross-channel rail connectivity is growing, Eurostar is doing everything in its power to prevent cooperation and hinder passengers from using Eurostar as a connecting service. At this rate, it will soon be easier to swim the fucking channel if you want to change onto somebody else's train. On the topic of Deutsche Bahn, who are facing some financial troubles back home, it has been announced that the company is seeking to sell off its subsidiary Arriva, which operates a number of UK train operators. And finally, let's talk about why everybody is suing the DfT. The short answer is that every company in Europe has simultaneously realised that there's an idiot in charge of the DfT, and that if they challenge them in court they will almost certainly leave a few £1,000,000 richer. A business model that, given recent trends, may be more profitable than actually running UK trains. The long answer is related to two largely separate fiascos, one of which doesn't really have all that much to do with trains, but I'm going to discuss it anyway, and that's all to do with a little something called Brexit. Specifically, no-deal Brexit, which despite being a monumental act of economic self-harm with the potential to create food and medicine shortages, did look like a very real possibility in the run-up to March 2019, and so the Department for Transport quite sensibly thought, we should probably hire in some additional cross-channel capacity should it all go to pot. And so the DfT signed 3 ferry contracts with Brittany Ferries, DFDS and Seaborne Freight. Now, as it later turned out, Seaborne Freight didn't operate any ferries, nor did it own any. And so that contract was cancelled a short few months later. Then, when no-deal Brexit didn't happen, DFDS and Brittany Ferries demanded massive payouts, and ended up being paid £50 million between them, because it looks as though there wasn't actually a clause in the contract saying, oh, by the way, this might not actually happen. Then Eurotunnel, also known as Getlink, got understandably quite annoyed that they hadn't been approached and had been sidelined by a couple of drunks with a cardboard sign saying rerun boats, and so threatened to sue the DfT over these kind of backdoor contracts that they had signed. The DfT ended up settling with them outside of court for £33 million. And now, to make matters worse, P&O Ferries is suing over the payout to Eurotunnel. Then we come to the second argument, specifically related to UK railways, and here's a sentence I never thought I'd have to say in an amateur YouTube show mainly focusing on infrastructure and rolling stock, but we need to talk about pensions, specifically who pays for them. Pensions, rather surprisingly, were one of the things that remained rather unchanged when the railways were privatised in 1994. However, more recently the pensions regulator has expressed some annoyance over the contribution that UK taxpayers pay towards railway pensions, and basically said operators need to pay more. The operators, meanwhile, expected some compensation from the Department for Transport to cover some of these costs, such as increased subsidies, but the Department for Transport said, yeah, not going to happen. This all came to a head on the 10th of April when it was announced that Stagecoach had been suddenly excluded from 3 franchise bids, East Midlands, West Coast and South Eastern, because they had submitted non-compliant bids. Stagecoach, to nobody's surprises particular, has decided to sue the DfT. And it looks highly likely that Stagecoach's partners in the West Coast bid, Virgin Trains and SNCF, will do the same. Meanwhile, Arriva, the third competitor in the East Midlands Franchise competition, is also suing the DfT over the awarding of the franchise to Abellio. As John Bull aptly put it, the DfT has become a large legal department with a small transport department attached. And just in case you didn't think this could get any madder, it has been reported that Network Rail accidentally sent an email to Abellio with some key details about Stagecoach's franchise bid. An internal investigation has revealed that the email wasn't actually opened and so had no effect. Yeah, okay. Many have also criticised the DfT for awarding a new 8-year franchise when a major report, the Williams Review, into the state of rail franchising is still incomplete. Oh god, I haven't even talked about the Williams Review. I'm going to save that malarkey for another episode. But we have one positive note to end on. With the race on to be Britain's next Prime Minister and a general election seeming more and more likely, it is becoming more and more likely that Chris Grayling will go. Or maybe he won't, who knows, it's British politics, nobody has any idea what's going on, it's mad. The next episode of Train News will be either in early August or late August. I will let you know closer to the time. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.